First one's a little bit spicy, but
Okay.
thought about it more, and I
Okay.
think I actually, appreciate Donald Trump's UFC move at the White House. And let me explain why, and then I
I'm
want your
pissed.
take. I
I hate
think
this.
is I think part of Trump's appeal, I should say, I don't love, him throwing the UFC event. I think we have something to learn from it. So I think part of Trump's appeal was about telling a bunch of people who felt like they didn't belong that they belong, that they're important and they belong. And I think when a lot of those people looked at Washington, they saw a place they thought was corrupt, but they also saw a place they don't belong in. They don't do, they listen to symphonies at the White House. They bring in world class musicians. Obama releases his nonfiction reading list of the year. Right? It is a culture that doesn't feel like it overlaps with their own culture. And Trump, both by attending these events, right? He's at the wrestling NCAAs, he's at the UFC events, both by attending them and then bringing them to Washington as a further step. He's saying, "I see you guys. I don't think you don't belong. I think you belong. I think your culture matters." I mean, he says that sometimes in a very racist way, right? He's talking to different demos at different times, but he's saying here, "I think your culture matters. I think you have a place in this country. Not only do you have a place, I'm going to make sure your culture is right here. I'm going to host things at the White House that you like and that you could see yourself attending or you could see yourself watching." And I think a lot of it has to do with this feeling that meritocracy is dead in America and that we have a class system. And so there was less of this kind of anger upwards that there is now. But anyways, I'll pause there. I said a lot. I want to get your take on
Are
that
you
take and if you
done?
think
Are
we
you
can learn
done
from it.
praising Donald Trump? Are you done?
We got 77 million votes that guy got. We've got to learn from him what he's doing right. And I think actually this is a good example. We don't have to put on UFC events, but it's a good example of him
Yeah.
making people I feel disenfranchised feel included and respected.
By the way, am I talking through my AirPods or is it better if I talk through here? I can't remember. I can't tell.
I can't figure out how to have a different mic than my headphones on Substack
Well,
Lives.
but so okay. So it's fine. You can hear me fine.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I don't disagree with you, but I mean, this goes back to 2016. Donald Trump is like, if you were going to give
100%.
him, if you were going to give him political credit for anything, it's that he stitched together a very diverse political coalition of folks that were blue collar, otherwise. I don't think you should be lauded for it. I'm not saying that's what you're doing. I think there are lessons for the Democrats to take from it,
Yes.
which is the Democrats have been a stuffy, up their own asses, obnoxious fucking group that, I'm sorry, the party, maybe some of you listening are like big supporters of the party and the people in the party. Well, look, they gave us Donald Trump because there wasn't
Yes.
an ability to stitch together this coalition. The Democratic Party should have. This was the Democratic Party that Bill Clinton came forward and put together that type of working class coalition and failed to stop Donald Trump. It shouldn't have been this self-obsessed billionaire that brought those people together. It shouldn't have been.
Yes.
And I got to agree with you on that point, man. I got to agree with you. But I'm also not surprised to hear that take from Xander Schultz of wrestling family fame.
Well, I was thinking actually, given your Indiana background, you also, this is what I like about you, one of the things I like about you, you lived in America. You weren't some guy who went to these boarding schools in far off lands and then straight to Oxford and then to DC. You're from America, your family's American, you know what I mean? There's a lot of everyday people in your life. And I think it helps you avoid a little bit of the DC distortion and warp that happens to a lot of those folks because they live in those very confined elite circles. But you're totally right to say this is a throwback move. 2016, Trump was really good at this, validating that people who have been left behind matter, their culture matters. He thinks it's cool. He understands it. He's since moved on to this weird personal persecution narrative most of the time. He's actually lost that instinct as a politician in a lot of ways. But
Yeah.
this felt like a throwback to that instinct.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, think about it in another time period. Like if Barack Obama had done this, it would have felt like edgy and cool. Been like, wait, why is Barack Obama having a UFC fight? Now, like, put aside some people think UFC is gross and whatever, but it would have been interesting. Or like, here's another example: is like,
Well,
you
Obama
know,
did those NCAA brackets. Like Obama
he
actually
did the
did a version of this
brackets.
too. It was like young men that like to watch, gamble on the NCAAs. He would do his NCAA bracket. He was actually really good at this, at appealing to a different type of demographic, but young men who could see themselves in the president and felt like then they could trust him a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lesson to be taken. I mean, look, blue collar voters, working class America, they're up for grabs. They're up for grabs. They got totally left behind by the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party got way too woke. I mean, you even see top Biden advisors now saying, peak woke got really weird. That was an article headline yesterday. Peak woke got weird. Yeah, it turned off like a ton of America. It turned off a ton of America. It didn't mean that the things that the movement stood for were bad things or wrong things. It just meant it was like to the exclusion of everything else. And then Donald Trump hoovered up those voters and he's
Yes.
basically using them to get fucking rich and using them to persecute his enemies. And hopefully we see some political leaders rising that are people of values and morality that will take the kind of working man spirit, which is like, for Donald Trump, this is just another fake product, right? I mean, like,
Yeah, he doesn't
Donald
care.
Trump's not doing a UFC match because he's like, this is what I care about and watch in my spare time. It's like, it's a fake product. It's another, bankruptcy waiting to happen is, him taking on this attitude.
The woke movement was almost the inverse of what we're talking about, right? Right now, I'm appreciating Trump's tactic in saying the content's no
Yeah.
good. So the woke movement was, I think, the opposite. There was a lot of meaningful things they were fighting for, but then it was presented in a way that pushed a lot of people away versus acknowledged them and included them.
Yeah.
That coincided, honestly, with a type of peak social media influencer moment where everyone's ability to grow relied on them to be more edgy than their contemporaries. And so they kept trying to
Mm.
find this edge and then shout people down because you're not using the same word or whatever. It was like it was a moment of not just the woke movement, but just toxicity in social media, period, that was pushing people. It was incentivizing people to be as toxic as possible so you could grow your following because you were saying things other people weren't saying.
Yeah, if I was going to distill all of the woke movement down to a very easy to understand sentence, I would say that the movement really stood for don't be an asshole. Don't be an asshole. Don't hate people because of their race, religion, ethnicity, creed. I mean, things that go back a
Golden
really long
rule.
time.
Golden rule.
But ironically, a lot of folks in the movement perpetuated it by being assholes. They were jerks instead of being like, yeah, this is the way we should be. We should be moral, accepting, open people. We should celebrate diversity instead of punishing it. And it became like the opposite of what it was intended. And I think that hurt. But I also think some of the lessons are being learned from that. And or at least I hope they are, going into this next period.
And sometimes I'm reminded of this sometimes. I talk to Rashad Robinson a lot. Rashad is one of the best racial justice leaders in the country, if not the best. He ran Color of Change for years. He's
Mhm.
now part of Jane Fonda's team, running the Committee for the First Amendment. And Rashad was saying, in just to give us some kind of counterbalance to this argument, he was saying in the wake of the blowback, say 2022 was kind of the peak blowback from
Yeah.
from the 2020 movement. He was saying, look, the general public knows now that police budgets occupy a massive part of their city's tax expenses. That wasn't
Mhm.
known before. The defund the police thing, because people gave that tagline a lot of shit, defund the police. He said, look, we mostly won the narrative that we're spending too much on policing and not enough on social services. And he's like, I don't know if you get there without being provocative, but you just know this is part of there's a whole flow to these movements where you say a provocative thing, it gets a lot of attention, oftentimes negative too. I mean, um, Martin Luther King was not a popular guy at his peak. It's hard to remember that at times. Where you do provocative things, you create a conversation. There is inevitably blowback around that, but hopefully there's like some legacy pieces of information that are kept or wins that are kept along the way. And anyways, that was an interesting. He's like, if we weren't provocative, and it's not like he was the architect of that movement, but he's like, if movements aren't provocative, they also just don't break above the noise too. And so there's a yin and yang to it. But I think mostly what you were talking about is less of like, were the taglines right? Was the marketing right? Were the issues right? And more of the how we good politics is how you bring people in, right? Really good politics. You go, Miles, you tell me, I'll never be a Democrat because, I care about free markets. And if I'm being a good politician, I go, Miles, I got news for you. We're all about antitrust here, so the markets can be as competitive as possible. We're trying to do the things that allow markets to be competitive, just like
Yeah.
you are a Democrat. It's not,
Yeah.
well,
That
then
would be the
fuck
move.
you.
Yeah,
know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, totally. You're out, and you're out, and you're out, and all of a sudden our club is this big. But like, I've seen a lot of comments in the chat. People are like, "Miles is pacing a lot today." I got the stand-up desk that I hardly ever use here, and I started Xander. I was like, "Okay, whenever I can, I should be standing up." And I find when I'm at the stand-up desk, I'm like constantly pacing. Usually when I'm in the chair doing the show, I'm like bouncing in the chair. But now I got a lot more range of motion here. I can do a lot more in this space, which, by the way, it is our weekly coffee. Hello, everyone. Great to see you. But instead of coffee right now, I got myself an NA beer. So I've got myself a Blue Moon. Feel free to drink whatever you want during this. I might even sit up here on the counter because weekly coffee, we can do it however we want to, folks. You can drink an NA beer. I only drink NA beers. I'm nearly 5 years sober, so this is fun for me and it's tasty.
I have a very embarrassing thing to admit. My desk is also a standing desk that can't stand because I put it together.
You know what's funny
My intention
is
was to stand.
I realized the other day I have all of this gear plugged in here, and there was no room for the standing. Like the outlet that I sacrificed I was like, I don't need to plug the standing desk in. Right. I had all the things that weren't benefiting my health plugged in. And so the other day I was like, you know what? I'm getting another extension cord. And I'm plugging the standing desk in. And I will stand. And look, now I'm just sitting on the counter instead of standing. This was my solution. I've got the standing desk. It's up. And now I'm over here sitting on the counter. I can't win.
All right. You want take number two? We talked about take number one.
What was take number two?
I haven't said it yet. It's
Oh
coming.
yeah.
That was the drum roll.
I love this. I love Xander coming into weekly coffee with some hot takes. All right, hot take number two.
This is less of a take and more of a kind of general posture I think we need to be taking.
Yeah.
We talked yesterday about how Reddit was being subpoenaed for user info, right? Because people are saying certain things online. And we were talking about, well, is that allowed? What are our rights around privacy? Can we speak about these things? And we have both our Bill of Rights, but we also have basic rights and human rights. And American history is about a bunch of people saying, I know I have this right, even though it might not be legally protected, and I'm going to fight for this right. You think about the enfranchisement efforts of women or Black people. I mean, the end of slavery, obviously, but even after that, like the inclusion in the workplace, the inclusion, the ability to buy a home in certain neighborhoods, right? The Black codes, the redlining, all these things. We have these rights, and the way you gain them, they might not be legally protected, but there are basic rights we all know we should have and we should keep fighting for. And irregardless of how successful this regime is in clawing back legal protections for rights, we just need to keep asserting that we have them and behaving as if we do and moving together. Because the only time when you lose those rights, in actuality, irregardless of legal status, is when you stop practicing them in mass and when you allow them to pick off individuals that punish them. And so I think we oftentimes, rightfully so, reference the Bill of Rights, reference legality, but also we should remember as a movement, as a democracy, the greatest progress has often been taking things that were legal and making them illegal, or taking things that are illegal and making them legal. So I just want to make sure that we keep the fight's not over if they somehow win in court and get to pull some records from Reddit. That now that type of free speech shouldn't be a right of ours. The fight's not over.
Yeah.
And so I just
Well,
wanted to create that distinction.
yeah, I think it's a great distinction. I'd also remind people, though, you don't get your rights from the U.S. Constitution. In fact, that was the big debate about the Bill of Rights, is a number of the founders did not want a Bill of Rights. They did not
Mhm.
want to put it in there because they were worried about exactly this, Xander. They were worried about future generations, thinking that the things listed in the Bill of Rights meant here are the rights that you are permitted. When instead, the Bill of Rights is just here's a bunch of rights that are really important that we're expressly telling the government you're not allowed to violate. But then there's things like the 10th Amendment that say this doesn't mean that these are all of your rights. In fact, the rest of the rights belong to you and the states. But these are the ones we're saying, back off, federal government. You can't touch this because we feel like we have to say it, because we've seen in our experience, in this case, in our experience in Britain, we've seen that if it's not written, that the executive will try to encroach and eat away at those rights. But I think it's such a powerful point, Sandra. There's a lot of rights we have that aren't delineated in the Constitution. We have all of the rights except the things we're told we can't do. I don't have the right to take your freedom. I don't have the right to take your life. I don't have the right to violate your rights. But I pretty much have the right to do everything else outside of that. And that's important for us to remember in this fight. The Reddit thing to me is very interesting. I was with our buddy Charlie Sykes today on his podcast. I don't know if those come out today or over the weekend, but we talked a little bit about the Reddit case together and just how remarkable it is that this week we have had stories about major CEOs in this country afraid to speak out and say anything critical of this administration, even when this administration is taxing, tariffing, regulating their companies to death. They're still scared to speak out. And then we've got stories about anonymous Reddit users, everyday Joes and Janes, who are fighting back in federal court to keep the federal government from violating their First Amendment rights. Think about
Mhm.
that. The people most equipped to fight and defend themselves, the billionaires, the powerful, are bending the knee. And the people who have everything to lose because they can't defend themselves are going at it and they're fighting. And that's actually what inspires me about this moment is on the other end of this, when we do preserve the republic, because we will get to say it was because of the people. It wasn't because these
Yes.
folks swooped in and saved us. It wasn't,
Yes.
the ghost of Steve Jobs that came in and saved us. It wasn't Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan Chase. It wasn't Sundar Pichai at Google. It wasn't Peter Thiel. It wasn't these people. It wasn't Elon Musk. They didn't come in and save us. In fact, many of them aided and abetted the bully and almost cost us the republic. But it was the
Mhm.
people stiffening their spines that fought back. That's actually inspiring to me because we are the ones that own this republic. We are the ones that take care of it, and we should be the ones to save it.
I got breaking news. Just give me in the
Yeah.
comments. Breaking news to me. Kathy Allison says, Xander, there's no such word as irregardless.
I wasn't going to say it. You said it twice, and it's a double negative, I think, grammatically, but I like that about you.
You guys are making me better every day. Thank you, Kathy Allison.
I like that about you. Xander also, there are periods in Xander's life, I think it's usually about a year at a time. There will be 2 to 3 catchphrases that he's really into. And then he'll shed them after a while. Xander
Like
was
the
big into
snake.
the Overton window before anyone else was saying Overton window.
Yeah,
He
loved
was.
it.
And then everyone else started saying it. And Xander's like, well, this isn't fun anymore. And he never
out.
says Overton window anymore. He's big into muzzle velocity right
Muzzle
now.
velocity. I knew you were going to say that.
And no one is saying muzzle velocity. But just wait. It's going to become your new catchphrase. And then Xander's going to move on to the next one. We should have a competition to give Xander his next watchwords.
Look, guys, I've come a long way. I was a high school dropout. I've clawed my way back, but there's still some legacy of that past
Nah,
that
man.
comes
It
out
was a
every once in a while.
beauty school dropout. Beauty school dropout. Go back to high school. We really should turn these coffees into karaoke hours. What do you guys think? Hit the heart button if this should become a karaoke hour. Just 1 week, not every week. Just 1 week. Xander and I both get on and we do live karaoke.
You know why you're suggesting that? Right now, we have the most, positive audience we could possibly have in the form of a 2 and a 3-year-old daughter who I think we're amazing when we sing. I think if that can what do you always say when, something runs into reality, it disintegrates upon touching
Yeah,
reality?
yeah.
What's your
Doesn't
phrase?
survive first contact with reality.
It doesn't survive first contact. I think our singing might be one of those things that doesn't survive contact.
Yeah. Well, I will say though, and maybe not virtually. Virtually live karaoke, ooh, does not hold up very well. But at our next in-person event, we're going to talk about doing some kind of live band karaoke situation. We nearly did this for State of the Swamp in Washington, D.C., our big rebuttal to the State of the Union. I don't mean during the live event, but we had considered doing a get together of Defiance.org members at one of the big karaoke joints in Washington, D.C. I'm still game for that, Xander. We just got to find the right opportunity for it and for this community. Um, yeah, that's all I got. That's all I got. My hot take today was live
I'm just
band
impressed.
karaoke.
I'm impressed with you as a sober person. Why to do karaoke? You don't see too many people in that Venn diagram. Usually there's a lot of liquid courage involved in karaoke.
This program is sponsored by non-alcoholic Blue Moon. Um,
Nice.
Yeah, no,
Kudos.
that's a good point. I do realize this is not sober evangelism. At least I'm not intending it to be sober evangelism. But there was a trope that I heard from a lot of people who had stopped drinking that I did not believe at all when I heard it. I was like, sounds like the bullshit you hear from people who've like totally found religion in whatever they found it in. And that trope was people said when you give up drinking, you find that you start to appreciate all sorts of little things and experiences so much more than you did before. And I would hear that and my ears would be like, what do you even mean? That just sounds like a weird thing to say. And like I'm gonna actually appreciate the air and a quiet walk more. Like, what does having a beer the day before or the day after have to do with appreciating a quiet walk? I didn't get it. I don't claim to be able to give you an answer to that or an explanation. What I can say is I now experience that all the time.
Mhm.
Like after I was not like, like getting run over by semi trucks because I was like drinking in the middle of the day. Hannah and I decided we didn't want that in our lives anymore. After that happened, this weird experience happened where things like going to karaoke or literally taking a quiet walk or eating a dark chocolate bar experiences just became so much more full and
Mm.
parts of my senses came alive again in a way that I had been missing for a long time. And then I was like, wow, I get it. I'm one of these tropes now. Anyway, that was just a really cool experience. So
Getting
there's
older
that.
oftentimes is recognizing all these, like, tropes and catchphrases are kind of true. You kinda reject them when you're younger. You're like, I'm gonna figure it out myself." It turns out to be true. I wonder if part of that is 'cause I'm feeling that a little bit. I bought this is really dorky, but I bought a walkie-talkie that, like, has LTE service that's just connected to my wife, my mom, my sister, and, like, my family that's in the area. And now I leave my cell phone at home and just take that walkie-talkie in case one of those people needs to get in touch with me
Wait,
while I'm out.
I won't say what the episode was because I don't want to get into it.
Yeah.
But the only time this has been problematic is I had kind of an emergency
Oh,
and I
yes.
had to reach out to Xander. And I was like, why can I not get in touch with him at all? And he was on one of these walkie talkie days.
My wife
And
walkie-talking me.
I was like, wait, this is really problematic. I don't have a connection to this walkie talkie
I'll I'll I'll
situation.
I'll get you a walkie-talkie. I'll get you'll be I mean, it might be annoying, you're just gonna hear my mom and my sister and me talk about our dinner plans half the time, but,
It is
anyways,
a
I say
great
all
thing.
that
It's
to
very
say
cool.
I just wonder if part of what went away when you stop drinking so frequently is what went away for
Yeah.
me, which is, like, being so overstimulated by the phone and social media and whatnot, and,
Yeah.
when your brain kinda heals up from that overstimulation. You're
Hmm.
able to the walk is
Totally.
enough.
Yeah.
Playing together Legos is enough all of a sudden.
And it doesn't have to be booze. It's like, what's the thing that might be supplanting the other things in your life
Yeah.
that give you joy? Um, Xander, I just realized you and we were riffing, which is fine, but let's take some questions. Let's take some
Oh, yeah.
questions. What do we got? Throw some questions out there. Kathy
Everyone's
Allison,
just
so
having a good
Miles will
time in
have
the
to carry
chat.
2 devices. Yeah, I might have to. I'm gonna carry the Xander walkie-talkie. It'd be like kinda like the bat signal sort of thing. I'd be excited about that.
Yeah.
Weed being legalized. Yeah, that's good. Like, you guys know I'm a libertarian. I'm actually for, like, legalize all of it, even the hard shit. And if you wanna, if you wanna take risks with the hard stuff, that's your life. Unless you're putting another person in danger, in which case then, from my natural law definition earlier, then it's illegal. Like, you don't have a right to do heroin and get behind the wheel of a car and go barreling down the highway. You have, in my view, a right to do heroin, but not to put other people in danger. Now, federal law says you don't, but I think that should change.
Miles, what's the
Not that I'm
libertarian take on like age limits? How do like driving and drinking and what is it? Does it skew like do you think 18-year-olds should be able to drink? Does it skew
That's a great question. The
younger when people get
Libertarian Party with a capital L, which I don't associate with at all because
yeah, yeah. I'm just saying like
I
the
think it's
ideology.
reflective of they probably have positions on that front. But that's an interesting thought experiment. Is how would I mean, I suppose a traditional like small L libertarian would say that's the type of thing that shouldn't be government regulated. It should be privately regulated. In other words, through
Families.
associations, compacts, ideas, right? Like, I think and I'm talking about like the old school libertarians from like
Yeah,
100
yeah.
years
Yeah,
ago
yeah.
would say something like a driver's license shouldn't be administered by the federal government. It should be administered by, a private association that certifies that this person has been trained in driving. And then there becomes a market incentive to get that certification instead of being an 11-year-old behind the wheel. I don't know. I mean, although there's an obvious role for government there. And again,
Yeah.
this I'm not talking about the Miles position. I'm trying to take the extreme position here of like what
Totally.
a extreme libertarian would say. But you know what? I'm going to take that back, Xander, because I think an extreme libertarian would say an 11-year-old behind the wheel represents,
Danger to others.
yeah, an obvious danger
Yeah.
to others that it's like that's an obvious place where laws should be exercised. Just like libertarians
Right.
exercise a lot of caution about do we legislate something we don't have to legislate? But I guess that's one of those things you basically have to legislate.
That's what the
We
Ruth Bader
we could go way
Ginsburg
down the rabbit
quote.
hole there.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg quote of my freedom ends if I'm swinging my arms around my freedom ends at the other person's nose. There's something to that effect.
Mhm.
All right, we've got some questions now. We gave people a beat.
We
Thank
do.
you for
I
that.
I was never here says, question, where do we submit groups to donate our membership dues to? I was never here. I'm so glad you asked that question. Lots of different ways to suggest to us different organizations we partner with. Some of you send us emails to support@defiance.org with ideas on people and groups we should partner with. In fact, a lot of the folks you see on Defiance Daily, a number of the groups that we have funded have come through those suggestions. Some of you post them here in the chat. Some of you wait until our monthly member meetings, but we want to keep a lot of ways and avenues open for you all to give us recommendations on the groups we should team with. Now, what we tend to do in selecting where we should direct our member resources is pick the categories and have you all submit feedback on the categories and then
Mhm.
use that to drive how we're selecting different groups rather than get into the nitty gritty and like make this club suffer under the weight of bureaucracy by saying, here are 19 different groups that do election protection. We want all of you to review their 1099s and their different forms and their this and that, and then rank order them and vote them. Like we would never take action. We would never move fast. And so hopefully that's why you guys trust us to run this organization is if you've told us these issues matter to us, we go find groups that are doing great things in that space and we partner with them. And if you've got ideas on those, send them our direction. So as an example, I was never here. Our group here, our membership of defiance.org has been very adamant that we focus heavily this year on protection of the elections. Big turnout, what Xander and I call a too big to rig coalition, and election security and protecting the infrastructure of our elections. And so if you see the email that I sent out earlier today, gee, I think probably a fourth of those things in that email are things in the wake of that demand signal from you all that we've funded as a group to go protect our elections and get out the vote. So that's how we
Mhm.
take input inside the Club for Courageous Americans. And we are also always open to changes and ideas and processes. As an example, someone recommended, I think a week ago, why don't we start voting on Fridays on who gets the Donald J. Trump Soulmate Award instead of us just picking the person? And we said, okay, that's a really good idea. So today on the program, I think
We're gonna
Mercedes has
do it.
got a live poll that will drop in so we can vote on who that is. Xander, you want to take one? Well, we lost him. Dang. Uh-oh. Xander down. Xander down. Hold on. I think you can add him back. Add him back. Bring him back in. He's in the chat. There we go. We
Yeah,
lost you, big boy.
I lost my audio. I don't know what's happening.
Oh, I got you now.
There's only one tech fix in these in these situations. Unplug, replug. That's the only troubleshooting I know how to do. Luckily, it worked. I was gonna say along the lines of strategies that work. Something that felt really affirming. I had a conversation last week with what has now become the leading philanthropy, pro-democracy philanthropy in the country. And they said, look, really in normal kind of times, there's so many strategies to invest in to further the country. But when you're facing fascism, really there's only one way to keep your country safe, and that is organizing everyday people, power of the people. Exactly what we're doing here. And we're
Mhm.
busy funding so many other efforts and so many different strategies, oftentimes the organizing of other people that you and I aren't organizing. But it was just a good reminder that the core work here of you guys showing up to this, us talking about our issues, us being able to move together on, whatever issue is bubbling up and to fight back collectively is the core defense of a democracy. And in these times, it is the most important thing to build, to invest in, et cetera. And so it was just really affirming because Miles, you and I are always, I think we have a lot of appreciation for our peers in the space that are doing, running different efforts and whatnot. And we like that Norm Eisen is out there protecting birthright citizenship. And we like that, Sunrise Movement is organizing students, but I don't want to lose sight of guys. You showing up like you're doing right now,
Mhm.
exactly what the smartest pro strategists or pro democracy strategists in the space say is the most important. Can you keep coming together? Can you keep hearing about what's going on? Can you keep moving together? And so this core thing that we've done together, that we're building out together. When I say we, I mean everyone who's listening now and our members. We just need to keep investing in this thing, keep building this thing up as well, because this is at the end of the day, this is the fail safe strategy.
I got to tell you, there was a reason, and I would tell him this if he was in the chat right now. There was a reason I wrote the essay that I wrote this morning on Defiance News, which was basically a summary of here's all the things that we've done so far in 2026. And it's because I woke up and felt like, we need to show folks that it's not completely hopeless. And I felt this way in part because last night I did this conversation with George Conway. That's who I was alluding to earlier, who's running for Congress in New York. Some of you are, big supporters of George. Others are supporting his opponent. Yeah, it's a Democratic primary, rock and roll. May the best man win. Um, but in the conversation with George, there was a point where he got kind of dour, where he
Yeah.
was just really like bleak about the future of America. And I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it sounded like George was saying, well, no, you know what? I think he did say this. I think he said, I don't even know if we're going to be able to save this thing in terms of the United States. And look, I get the despair. I'm just tired of the despair. Right? That's
Mhm.
why we call
It's
this
just
thing
not
defiance
animating.
and not despair. Is despair, and I cannot think of a single thing in my life that despair has gotten me. It's only subtracted. Despair is only subtracted from my life,
Right.
and it is subtracting from the life of the nation. I can tell you in my personal experience, defiance has been very additive for me. It's been very additive in my personal life and professional life. And I think it can be in the life of our nation. And so I woke up this morning and I thought, I like George a lot. I think he's going to be a bulldog against Donald Trump if he ends up in Congress. But I thought, we really have got to push back against the despair message because
Yes.
it's motivating no one to go fix this country. And people have an illusion. I really do think it's an illusion. Any of your friends who are like, what do we do? We're stuck. There's nothing we can do. It's a total illusion. Just open the email I sent. There's like 50 bullet points of just the things we
Yes.
have done. We're a 3.5 person organization with a big audience of you all, a big group of members taking action. But, we're not Google, we're not Apple, and just our group has been able to do dozens and dozens of very specific, impactful, and actionable things to protect our country. It is an illusion that we are helpless, but it's also a self fulfilling prophecy. If you think you're helpless, you will be helpless. If we think we're just going to lose this republic, ding dong, we'll just lose the republic. It's not
Totally.
guaranteed that we keep this thing, but we've got to pass that along. We really have got to convey to folks the animating energy behind being defiant. I know we say it all the time. I know we got neons here, but there's a reason. We have to keep going back to this word, which is a word that implies you've got agency.
Mhm.
You've got the ability, as Xander often says, to revoke your consent from what's happening and go do something about it. And I know I'm preaching to the proverbial choir here, but we also have got to go out there and proselytize that to people. And in that conversation with George last night, I was thinking, well, we haven't done a good enough job yet because
Yeah.
I would have thought I would have infected my friend George with this same ethos, but I haven't yet. So I got work
Mhm.
to do. You've got work to do. We've all got work to do.
And not for nothing, it's also not true. Like, think about the last 10 things you were really upset about that the Trump administration was doing, and then how many of them actually came to fruition versus how many have been thwarted. Like, we talked a lot this week about the 1776 fund for Jan Sixers. Who knows if that's gonna happen? Turns out the fucking Republican Party turned against Trump in trying to create that. The invasion of Greenland, the end of birthright citizenship, like, they are going for it for sure. There's an audacity for how they are attacking our Constitution and our rights, but it's sometimes, oh my god, I'm gonna avoid using the term muzzle velocity here. Sometimes it's hard to now I'm self-conscious, but it's hard to keep up with the losses that they're stacking because they're launching new attacks. But it's just not for nothing. It's also just not true that we are winning most of these fights. We are reasserting that we have rights that we have. They are being punished in the polls for taking extreme positions. They are losing special elections. That Trump's approval numbers are dropping. Like, it's just not true that this is all lost. What is true is that we have a president currently in the White House that's doing audacious things. And we have to stop him, and we have to vote out all of his allies, and we have to vote him out eventually as well. Yeah, there's no reason to be. I mean, not there's no reason. There's lots of reasons to be sad about it. But to your point, it's not animating energy. It's just not animating energy. And at the end of the day, the most important thing is we wake up every day with the energy to do something about it. And so, I think, anyways, that's a great point you're making, Miles.
This this hit home for me in a personal respect the other day. I mean, Xander, you know this, but our folks in this audience don't know this. I wrote the other week about a family member who passed away who was really impactful in my life, and a really, really insane, horrible thing happened 2 weeks after. Is this family member dies, and her daughter 2 weeks after the funeral gets into a car crash and something falls on her car and is basically paralyzed from the waist down. Okay,
Mm.
so she's literally just planned her mother's funeral. She's brought the whole family together. She's grappling with being the new sort of matriarch for the family. and she, is one of the breadwinners for the family, and then she's paralyzed. And I got to tell you what, um, her attitude is not currently despair.
Mhm.
Remarkably, any of us
Wow.
would be despairing. I mean, this only happened, I don't know what, 9, 10 days ago, Xander. Um,
Yeah.
she has every right to spend the next decade in total despair. Instead, she is defiant as hell. She is like forcing the hospital to eject her so she can go straight into physical therapy. Like a lot of people would take the insurance, 6 weeks in the hospital, be there recovering, doctors on your beck and call. She's like, no, I'm ready to go do the work. Let's go do the work. Let's go train for what my life is going to be like in the future.
Mhm.
After that happened, I said this to you, Xander. I've been saying this to my wife every day. I look at our problems and I think, well, this is minuscule. And if she can confront that sort of whiplash change to her life with defiance, then I don't need to sit around bitching about how the president ruined this cool business I'd started and, you know, came after me. I can do something about
Mhm.
it. And I don't know. It was a reminder, if anything, of
Mm.
the attitude that we need to have in this fight. Bad things are happening, but despair is not going to help us overcome them. The defiance will.
100. I hadn't heard that update. I'm happy she's since the accident happened, I'm happy she woke up. I'm happy she has use of her arms. I'm so sorry that's going on with your family. Someone in the chat I want to
Yeah.
attribute it. Uh Kelly says we cannot give up, and then someone said they count on us giving up. Kelly Duncan says they keep overwhelming us on purpose. They want us to give up. I'll find that. I'll find. Sorry, I can't attribute to you right now. I'm scrolling through the comments, but I completely agree. That's what they're banking on. They're banking on us giving up and not being able to get up the next day, and and I think if we can maintain this spirit, and it can be fun to show up to work, it can be fun to listen in, and we can engage you all, and it is such an honor and so fun doing meaningful work every day. And we're getting an opportunity to do some of the most meaningful work of our lives together and to find our better selves in this moment. And if it can be about that discovery, finding bravery that we didn't know we had, finding courage we didn't know we had, finding resolve we didn't know we had, that can be an incredible moment for growth for us all and something exciting to step into. And I don't know if a lot of our peers in the media space understand that in
Mhm.
the fight to get eyeballs. Yeah, in the fight
Mhm.
to get eyeballs and be the most dramatic and to be the most outraged, you can chip away at that endurance, and I don't think there's anything out there as important as our endurance in this moment, at least for the next, call it 3 years.
Yeah, as just a consumer, a voracious consumer of news, I, like I've had my fill of. You won't believe how outrageous this thing is that they've done. I've had my fill of it. Like, I know that I
Yeah,
oftentimes have that attitude because
I now
you
believe it.
react to the
I
news.
believe they're doing outrageous shit.
Yeah, but I'm not. I don't need to be told. I don't think any of you need to be told anymore how bad it is. That wasn't the case a few years ago. I mean,
Yeah,
I spent
yeah,
years out there barnstorming the country being like, you don't get it. If he wins again, it's 10 times worse than it was before. And people are like, no, 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 I don't need to hear it. No, no, no. They did need to hear the apocalyptic warnings. But now we're in the apocalypse,
yeah,
metaphorically speaking. Now we're in the apocalypse. You don't have to tell me anymore. The sky is blood red. There's thunder. There's locusts. It's happening. I see it. I don't need a breathless news report that says the locusts are outside. The locusts are outside. What I need as just a consumer of the news is not you won't believe what they've done. It's you won't believe what we've done. Like that is what I want to consume. That's what's lacking in the information marketplace, if that's what you want to call it. I hope we're at least supplying some of that here. But more than anything, I hope people just copy us, Xander. I want people to go copy what Defiance is doing again and again and again. I don't care if they replace us. I want them to replace us. I want every podcaster, broadcaster, person out there who's complaining about how scary Trump is doing this and
Mhm.
just doing something about it and passing that along, putting us out entirely. It's because it's not about us, it's about this. And
Mhm.
so I don't know. I'm starting to see some of that, not nearly as much as I would hope at this point.
Well, we see a lot of it is at the local level. Like, I spoke at a local indivisible chapter this weekend. At the local
Yeah.
level, it's really inspiring what's been created over the last 10 years, but especially during the Trump administration. Like the amount of engagement of individuals at the local level. Indivisibles just I'm using that name broadly as a community organizers because a lot of people in this chat are do belong to a local indivisible chapter. They're getting shit done over there. Like we have this policy, we're doing this activation, we have this policy. It's so cool
Yeah.
to start to
I
see
love
this like
that.
citizen civic infrastructure be rebuilt that can hold elected officials to task and set their own priorities. So you do see it on the local level a lot more than you see it on the national level. I know we said we'd go to questions, and you and I kept
Oh, yeah.
Chris
Chris asked
Chris
two good
says
ones.
Chris says, things have been really escalating at Delaney. Is there anything we can do to help? Yes, I just got off my weekly GTFO, GTFOICE .org chat. If you haven't checked it out yet, go to GTFOICE.org. It's a rapid response network to help people shut down prison camps wherever they pop up. We have national actions and we also have local actions if there's a prison camp in your area. And Save America Movement is at Delaney with their Save America Movement Hummer. I think as of tomorrow. So they're going to be out there with
Yeah.
influencers. They're bringing our friend Jolly Good Ginger and some other folks to get a
Oh,
lot more
nice.
eyeballs on it. And they're going to report back. Miles and I have a signal thread going with our Project Saltbox and Save America Movement partners there. So they are going to come back to us with both an update on what's going on with Delaney and action steps. They've been working with organizers over there to figure out the action steps to support that fight. So we should have that for you sometime early next week. Actions to support the fight at Delaney.
That's awesome. And first I'm hearing of it too. I feel like half of our updates for each other happen on lives.
Totally.
And the dailies, just because the days are so busy, going from like potential intervention and action to the next one, that you and I give each other the updates here in these conversations. That is awesome. That is so great to hear. I also will say, like, I'm pretty amazed, Xander, at a lot of the partners that we have teamed with, how
Yeah.
fast they move too, and how scrappy they are. And, to bring you guys to the inside of this, I mean, there's no magic to it. But I mean, when we're thinking through, when you all give us the signal at the monthly member meetings or in emails, here's the issues we want to focus on. And we distill that to here's what Defiance.org members care about the most. Xander and I are then usually prioritizing who are groups who, if they got our support as an organization, as a group, um, would be able to do something they wouldn't otherwise be able to do because
Mhm.
they're small, but they're nimble. Sometimes we're supporting very, very big organizations that don't necessarily need our support writ large, but maybe for a specific project. But a lot of times it's groups who are small and scrappy and willing to respond to the moment because when you take giant nonprofit organizations and you tell them Donald Trump just wrote an executive order taking over mail-in ballots. They're like, well, we'll think about it for 6 months and create a project. You're like, 6 months? We don't have 6 months,
Yeah.
And so we go to like a campaign legal center and we fund them to bring a lawsuit and to make it happen and do it that week. So anyway, I say that because when you mentioned Save America Movement, they are like that. I mean, this is Steve Schmidt's group that he started, and they move super fast. And I love that they're just at Delaney. They're going to Delaney. They're like,
They're going
here's
there.
where the fight is right now. Let's get there. Let's help. Let's bring national attention to it. Let's crowdsource actions and support to shine a light instead of talking about it for a month and then deciding to do something. Like, by then the moment's passed. So
Totally.
anyway, long way of saying, uh, part of the joy of this job is finding the firefighters and
Mhm.
supporting the firefighters to get to the fire, not talk about here's how we're going to put out the fire next week, when by that point it's become a conflagration that's gobbled up the town.
By the way, since we're catching up, the next actions over there, we're gonna have the Delaney actions. Project Saltbox is gonna have a way to crowdsource citizen investigative journalism to go pull reports. If you're in a certain state, you have certain rights to get information about new buildings being built and regulations, et cetera. So crowdsourcing all of the info that we can find about impending or upcoming prison camps, and then being able to use that repository to figure out exactly what's going on and what are the bureaucratic interventions in each location to stop the building of these prison camps. We're also going to talk about divestment. We've talked a lot about Geo Group, Core Civic. These are the kind of primary uh, private prison groups that are benefiting from the prison network. But there's a bunch of other folks that are benefiting, that clothe them, that feed them, et cetera. And we need to make sure that we are not investing in the incarceration of our neighbors. We should probably be prison camps for immigrants or not. We should be divested from these groups. But we're going to talk to some experts about how to divest from the folks benefiting from prison camps. So those were our
Yeah.
three actions coming. I think you'll receive that email if you're a follower of Defiance, if you're a follower of Project Saltbox, if you follow Save America movement, you'll receive that email with those action steps in a couple weeks from GTFO ICE.
Nice. Kim Yingling asks, how much has been raised for the mobile Trump Epstein file project? Thank you for that question, Kim. I think the answer is we've crowdfunded like $20,000 in support. And that's, of course, in addition to the commitment that we've made at defiance.org to go get the truck ready no matter what. As we said to our partners that built the Trump Epstein reading room, regardless of how much we're able to raise, if it's a penny, if it's $100,000, we will commit to getting the truck ready for you.
Mhm.
We'll pay for it. We'll get it wrapped. We'll get it ready to take the Epstein files coast to coast so that you guys can focus on the cities this needs to go to and the logistics, the insurance, the drivers, how do you take something like this on the road? So yeah, Kim, I'm glad you asked the question. Thrilled to report that just off of, I don't know what, we've been talking about it for a week, just off of a 1 week push, folks have chipped in $20,000, which is amazing. Every single penny of that goes towards the execution of this project, which is amazing. And then I don't think I can declare this for them, but I think our friends who have come up with this activation with us, I think they have some major donors who are ready to fully cover, let's call it the first few or maybe the first dozen cities and the cost of executing this in all of those places. All of that to say, someone asked a question further up in the chat. What are the first cities? Where's this going to go?
Yeah, that was Ghoulie. When will the
we're on-
bookmobiles? When will the bookmobile schedule be out? And how do we get to our town, Seattle? Says Ghoulia.
Yes, I think it will end up in Seattle. I don't want to over. The answer is we're working feverishly on this every day to get answers to those questions. It's as you can imagine, a crazy amount of work for tiny teams to say where are we going to go, when, who's going to host it, what events are going to be there, how do we, all of the stuff. But that's all in motion. But the short answer is, I think we're hoping to at least have that initial schedule out by the time the truck is done. So the folks that we talked to this week that do this kind of thing, they retrofit box trucks into these types of activations, should have this ready by 4th of July, fingers crossed. I don't expect to see it on the road that day. I think that we'll probably make the announcement sometime shortly after the 4th for where this is going to go. And we're already planning for that announcement too. We don't have the exact date, but I will tell you, we have some amazing names, national figures, remarkable people who are volunteering their time to bring attention to this cause, to join survivors there, and to get this thing out there on the road. So anyway, July is what we're circling to push all of that out there. Basically, the team needs the month of June to get everything ready and to put it on the road. Think of that as the planning that has to go into Taylor Swift going and doing a series of cities. I guess it's not equivalent.
Not quite Taylor Swift.
And not in terms of size. But yeah, we're really
logistics.
Yeah, we're really fired up about this. You guys have heard me and Xander talk about it. Very, very moved by the stories of the survivors, and let's give them a platform to get out there because they're trying to shut these people up. I mean, that's not figurative anymore. I mean, literally, the president of the United States is trying to shut up the woman that he sexually assaulted, E. Jean
Yes.
Carroll. Like they're trying to shut these people up, and no, we're not going to let them do that. Literally, we're going to give them the biggest fucking microphone we can create to go to all the major cities around this country and say, "Here's what's wrong. Here's a cover up. Here's why we can't forget it. Here's why we have to elect people of integrity. Here's why we have to stand up against corruption." So, yeah, anyway, we're putting a lot of time and energy into that one. So you'll hear us talking about it a lot, a lot, a lot. And please know, folks, and Xander, this is the last thing I'll say, then I'll throw it back to you to close this out. But please know, folks, when we urge you to go above and beyond and chip in for these things, it's not us pressuring you. If you're a Defiance.org member, you are helping to fund these efforts. You are crowdfunding these efforts. But we go out there regularly because our ambitions are a good bit bigger than the size of our club. And we
Mhm.
know that there are folks who maybe aren't monthly members and others who want to chip in on causes that matter to them. And it allows us to do bigger things. So this org does not exist to make profit for anyone. It is a nonprofit. When we are out there saying, if you can chip into this, it's because it matters. It's because it's the difference between us making that thing happen and not making that thing happen. It doesn't go into some corporation's secret pockets. So a big, big thanks to people who've chipped in to help make some of those things happen above and beyond what we're able to support as a club. It's amazing. It's allowing us to go back to that email from this morning, an absurd amount. I think what we've done just this year, Xander, is like, yeah, I mean, it's what I've seen other orgs, put out as like, here's what we've done in the past 5 years. Like here's our successes. We're like, we did that in 6 months. Anyway, off my soapbox.
I mean, the reason, you talked about kind of getting the extra resources and you talked about our partners. Those are huge reasons why, is we're collaborative. We don't try to take credit for a lot of the stuff that we're doing, or we like to at least share credit on different projects. And you all throw down with us beyond your member fees on a regular basis. And that's what
Yeah. Can I take
ours.
just one tied to that? Is someone asked, oh, shoot, it disappeared on my screen. Someone had asked, how much are we trying to raise for the FC Mobile? That's a good question. So, look, the truck, basically, the quotes from these vendors are, it's $100,000 to get that thing on the road as a mobile museum.
Yeah.
There were other organizations, other like companies that do this that were quoting like $250,000. We're like, that's crazy. We can't. I mean, that's too much. But we found a vendor willing to do it for that amount of money, and but the Trumpsonian people have estimated that basically the maintenance of something like this is like $15,000 to $25,000 a week, depending on the size of event in each city. This would be very comparable to putting on a concert in each city and like providing security and doing all of that stuff. So, all of that to say, we had hoped in crowdfunding to raise another 100K on top of what we announced to be able to ensure that like 4 marquee cities would have events around the thing. I think that by the time this thing gets to launch, I think we will have achieved that. And then in addition, it sounds like our friends over there have secured funding to hit a whole bunch of cities in the interim and to expand that map. So anyway, more detail than some of you guys wanted, but it's helpful for folks to understand because you're hopefully going to be out there at these
Yeah.
events, making these things happen this summer and this fall.
And there's things we don't know yet. Like, gang, we want to make sure the museum is available for everyone to see. So we're not going to charge on the front end, but we are going to ask people as they're exiting to donate a gallon or two of gas, if they felt moved by the effort.
Yeah.
And so there's like a TBD on, can that carry the entirety of the thing? Do we need to, subsidize it? That can carry some of the expenses associated with mobile museum. Hopefully we're getting enough folks flowing through that, being moved, being generous with their dollars after having experiences, that this thing can be self-sustaining, and then we could drive it around the country for the rest of this administration, not just up to the midterms.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll say,
ahead.
sorry, Miles. I was going to say the other thing I'll say, is one of the ways we're thinking about making sure this is as impactful as possible is that we're talking to different groups that have built-in schedules leading up to the midterms, that have built-in audiences that want to support this thing. So I had great calls yesterday with the Women's March, with Sunrise Movement. These are groups with their own audiences that they need to activate into action, or they need to bring their friends to things like this. The Epstein files have been incredible. The reading room, I'll say, was incredible that the median average person I saw in there was like 20 years old, right? This is
Mhm.
not your, indivisible chapter member that was there. It was a lot of people that probably wouldn't consider themselves all that political that were being activated through that experience. And so we're just looking for, we're talking to Rich Logis from Leaving MAGA soon. We're looking for all sorts of different types of organizing partners with different, where the Epstein files can play a different role in how they organize their coalitions and teaming up with those groups. So that's one thing that's happening in the background right now.
And if you think, I don't know why you would think this, if you think for any reason we're not tracking on those folks you want us to team with and that you want to see. I literally have a note right here on my screen, Xander. People that our members have asked us to bring in or partner with soon. Stacey Abrams, Don Lemon, Andrew McCabe, Joyce Vance, Jane Fonda, Adam Mockler, Jason Crow, Senator Kelly, Jasmine Crockett, Mark Elias, David Hogg, SPLC, Norm Eisen, Heather Cox Richardson, Representative Jamie Raskin, Stephen Levitsky, Melissa Murray,
Good
Emily
list.
Mitchell, Ann Telenas, Matt Work. I mean, I've got a long running list of those are the people side. Then there's like an organizations column of folks that you want us to prioritize connecting with, bringing on, and joining. And Xander, you just mentioned one of those, which is why I went down that list. Who did you just mention? Oh, Rich Logis. Is
Oh,
we had a lot of
yeah.
people. When the Leaving MAGA thing popped up, we had a lot of people email and message in and say, Defiance.org should partner with Leaving MAGA to help people break away. Message received. We are. So more on that soon.
Miles, I enjoy these too much. I think I want us to pivot to like a Hassan Piker model of just like 8 hours of streaming a day. This is my favorite part of our work. It's just
Yeah.
these kind of unscripted chats that we have. It's so nice.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. All right, we gotta go. We gotta go back to the work now because I'm looking at my calendar and just like the
I
massive
know.
list of things to
I
get through
know.
the day. Some of them boring, but a lot of them very impactful. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you didn't get your fill today, Xander and I will be back at 5 p.m. Eastern for Defiance Daily. It's Friday. This is going to be a fun program. It's going to be a loud program. It's going to be a dynamic program. I hope you can join us tonight. Wajahat Ali is going to be with us. Waj is great. He's the perfect guy to have on for a Friday on Defiance Daily. So we hope to see you in a little bit.
Later, gang. See you soon.
Thanks, friends.